witch has measles. Days passed, and then weeks, and Simon didn't see the witch at all. Then it occurred to him that perhaps there might be something wrong, and he'd better go and see. As soon as he approached her garden gate, he knew that he had been right. There were 49 milk bottles on the witch's doorstep, and 49 copies of the Echo Evening News. "I wonder which is more stupid, the milkman or the paper boy," said Simon aloud. He rang the bell, and nobody told him to come in. He went round to the back door and peered through the kitchen window. All he could see was a pile of dirty dishes in the sink and a great deal of dust everywhere. "This looks serious," said Simon, and he opened the door and went in. The witch was not watching television, and not reading her spell book, and not doing anything. She wasn't there. "Oh dear," said Simon, "I do hope she hasn't gone. Perhaps she's left the country altogether." He went upstairs to see if there were any clues in the bedroom, and he found the witch in bed. "You shouldn't have rushed over here so quickly," complained the witch. She was completely covered in spots. "You've got spots all over you," exclaimed Simon. "My goodness, you're sharp," snapped the witch. "Of course I have. I've got double German measles." Simon laughed. "You can't have double German measles," he said. "Don't tell me what I can't have when I've got them," said the witch peevishly. Just then George walked in, carrying his tail erect like a black flag. He too was covered in spots. "He's got it as well!" cried Simon. George gave Simon a withering look and started to munch hungrily on the bedspread. "Poor beast, he's starving," said the witch. "You didn't happen to notice if the milkman had left any milk?" Simon didn't want to upset the witch by telling her that she had 49 bottles of it, so he went downstairs, made a milky coffee for the witch and a bowl of porridge for George, and wrote a note for the milkman saying, "No milk until Christmas, please." "Shall I change your sheets?" he asked, wanting very much to be helpful. "Don't be foolhardy," said the witch. "They were changed only 6 weeks ago. Do you imagine I'm made of laundry money?" Simon fell silent. He must do something for his friend the witch. She needed some sort of medical attention, he felt. Yet, "What about your wand?" he asked. "Couldn't you use it to tidy up the house a bit and get yourself better?" The witch raised her eyes to the ceiling in exasperation, and her eyeballs rattled around her head like balls in a fruit machine. "You haven't noticed, then," she said. "Noticed what?" asked Simon. The witch rolled her eyes even more until they showed 2 pears and a plum. "My wand has double German measles too," she spat. Simon looked around until he spotted the witch's wand on the bedside table. It was encrusted with red measles spots. "It's encrusted with red measles spots," said the witch. "I think you should have a doctor," said Simon. "Which doctor do you have?" "Which doctor? There's not one I know this side of Zanzibar." "Well, there's Dr. McCrae. He lives just down the road. I had him when I had measles." "That would be single measles, I suppose," said the witch. "Yes," Simon agreed. "Well, phone him," said the witch. "I don't want to die so young." Dr. McCrae arrived with his black bag. He listened to the witch's chest and examined George's nose and whiskers. "Definitely double German measles," he said. "The worst case I've seen." "Told you, didn't I?" said the witch, looking pleased. "I'm afraid we'll have to move you to the hospital," said Dr. McCrae. "In an ambulance?" "Certainly," said the doctor. "And will they flash the blue light and go, na, 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 na?" "I'm sure I don't know," said Dr. McCrae, leaving hastily. The ambulance arrived, and it flashed its blue light and went na, 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 na at breakneck speed all the way to Upper Western General Hospital. "Into bed you pop, and take off your hat," said the little nurse in a starched pinny. The witch leapt into bed, but she would not take off her hat. "Nobody else is wearing a hat," whispered Simon. "More fool they," snorted the witch. "It would be imprudent to remove my hat when I am so ill." Simon groaned. Everyone was staring at his friend. The nurse came back and stuck a thermometer under the witch's tongue. She crunched it up and scowled. "Ugh, I hope the meals aren't going to be as nasty as that one," she grumbled. Mrs. Bundy in the next bed started to titter, and Simon said that he had better be going home and would see her later. The witch began to unpack. She put her toothbrush in a mug, her slippers under a chair, her wand inside her locker, and George on the end of her bed. "Law's sakes," gasped Mrs. Bundy in the next bed. "They won't let you keep that animal in here." And all the nurses and doctors and even matron said the same thing. But George arched his back and spat. And he looked so dreadful like that, with all his measles spots as well, that everyone hurried away and didn't mention the subject again. A woman from the kitchen came in. She was carrying a notebook and a pencil, and she was going from bed to bed. When she came to the witch, she said, "Hello, dearie. What would you like for lunch today? We've got boiled beef, roast lamb, and a watercress salad." "I fancy earwig pie," said the witch. "Oh, you're a caution," giggled the kitchen lady. "I think it's just lovely when the patients make jokes. Now, we've got boiled beef and—" "Are you deaf or something?" screeched the witch. "I said I fancied earwig pie, and I want ladybird sauce on it too, not too much pepper." Then the kitchen lady got very upset and flew out of the ward crying. Matron arrived, and she fluttered her frilly hat and looked red and fierce. "You are being a great bother," she boomed at the witch. "One more word out of you, and I will send you home. Double German measles or no German measles." The witch pulled her hat down over her eyes and pretended to be asleep. That evening Simon came back. "Are you all right?" he asked. "Yeah, it's like Butlin's holiday camp in here," said the witch. "The food is wonderful and the view is terrific. I must send postcards to all my friends." "I'm so glad," said Simon, and he went home again. The next day was a little better. The witch was given a new thermometer for breakfast and another one for elevenses. She wondered if so much glass was healthy. The matron boomed so much she made herself ill and had to go and lie down. "Well, it's not much fun in here, is it?" said the witch. "Just look at everybody, all miserably mumbly." "They're not well," explained Mrs. Bundy. "They're bored," said the witch. Just then 2 porters pushed a trolley down the ward and took one of the ladies off with it. "Did you see that?" cried the witch. "They're giving rides in here on go-karts." "It was a trolley," laughed Mrs. Bundy, "and it was only taking Mrs. Jones down to have a new bandage on her toe. Are there any more of those things around?" The witch was pink with excitement. "Yes, there are 6 of them in the corridor outside." The witch counted on her fingers. 6! We could have races. "Go to sleep," said Mrs. Bundy. "I will not," squealed the witch. "Get out of bed and help me bring them in here." Mrs. Bundy was an obliging sort of woman, as well as being just a teeny bit scared of the witch, so she climbed out of bed and helped to bring in the trolleys. "But who's going to push?" she asked. "Nobody," said the witch. "Watch me." She tucked up her nightie, took a long run, and leapt onto the trolley, tummy downwards. The trolley sailed smoothly down the ward until the wall at the other end stopped it. Several of the sick ladies sat up and looked wistfully at the witch. She seemed to be having such a great time. "But we'll get into awful trouble," said Mrs. Toogood. "Oh, to heck with that," said Granny, who was 101 and felt she didn't have much time left in which to get into trouble. She tottered down the ward to bag herself a trolley. Then all the other ladies started putting on their slippers and dressing gowns and fighting for trolleys. "Whee!" giggled Granny as she raced down on the ward, knocking flowers, bananas and bottles of orange juice everywhere. Everybody won a race at least once. The witch won 5 times and Granny won 6. "Stop!" called the witch. "What?" asked Granny, lying on the floor, helpless with laughter. "If we tie sheets onto the trolleys, they'll be like sailing boats and we can go lots faster," said the witch. "Great idea," agreed everyone. And they started pulling sheets off the beds and fixing them to the trolleys with crutches and anything else they could find. After that, the trolleys went so fast that no one had time to see who was winning. "My goodness!" gasped Granny. "It's 100 years since I've had such fun." "Stop!" "Yes, yes, what now?" asked Granny, so delighted she could hardly breathe. But it was not the witch speaking this time. It was Matron. Her frilly hat had unfrilled itself and lay on top of her head like a dead seagull. "I have never seen such disgraceful behaviour," she was saying. The ladies lay very still on their trolleys and tried to look as though they were about to go down and have their toes bandaged or something. "I have never," went on Rachel. "Oh, do stop saying never, will you?" cried Granny. "You and your rotten pills, what never worked. I'm going home. I feel so much better." "Eureka!" yelled the witch. "What is it?" cried everyone. "My spots have gone." She looked at her cat and her wand. They were spotless too. "Shall I change Matron into a super trolley?" she grinned. "No," said the ladies. "She's quite nice, really, once one gets to know her." "All right, then," said the witch. "I won't this time." And she went home. At visiting time, Simon arrived. When he saw the empty bed, he was horrified. "She's gone home," explained Mrs. Bundy. "Does that mean she's better?" he asked. "Better than anyone we've ever had before," agreed all the ladies. "Oh, good," said Simon. "I was terribly worried about her." Halloween. Simon and the witch were sitting in front of the witch's fire roasting chestnuts on a shovel. "Do you know what day it is tomorrow?" said Simon. "It's Saturday," said the witch. "Yes, but as well as Saturday." "What do you mean, as well as Saturday? Either tomorrow's Saturday or it isn't. It can't be as well as." Simon looked confused. "What I meant was," he began. "Then you should have said so in the first place," scolded the witch. "I meant," Simon went on, "that tomorrow is Halloween." "Hallow who?" asked the witch. "Ween," said Simon. "So what happens then?" "Oh, lots of things," said Simon. "We have parties and play duck apple. Then we cut out the inside of turnips, put candles in them, and carry them through the streets." "What for?" asked the witch. Simon could see that his friend the witch was in one of her awkward moods where she was going to ask lists of questions. "Something to do with power cuts?" the witch went on. "Of course not," said Simon. "It's just fun and nice and scary. And another thing, witches come out of hiding and fly around the sky." "Which witches?" "It's just a game," laughed Simon. "They aren't real." "Not real, eh?" said the witch, her eyes suddenly turning very green and beginning to roll about as if some very exciting thought was dashing around inside her head. "All just a game," Simon laughed again, and he went home because he had lots to do before the party on Saturday. The Halloween party was to be held in the town hall, and the mayor was to give out prizes for the best costumes. Sally, who was on book 4, was cutting out black paper and rolling it up into a pointed hat, and most of the other girls were doing the same, although not as neatly as Sally, of course. Simon's mother had an old fur coat she didn't want, so Simon decided that it would make a super cat costume. He spread it on the floor, rolled up in it and stitched it down the middle, wriggled out of it, and then hung the costume carefully on the end of his bed. Next day, Simon's mother made 5 dozen jam tarts and took them down to the town hall. There were already lots of other mothers there, and they had all been making things too. The mayor was wearing his gold chain, and it was so heavy it weighed his head forwards, which made it appear that he was getting ready to eat all the jam tarts and sausage rolls and the jellies before the others had a chance. Sally arrived in her pointed black hat, and she was furious to find that most of the other girls were wearing exactly the same thing. Then Simon came prowling through the doorway, meowing loudly, and was just as cross to see that his costume too had been copied. "Copycat!" he hissed at Jimmy Watson, who was pussyfooting around in an old fur of his mother's. All this time the witch was making her own preparations. She had changed her socks and brushed her dress. Now she was trying to drag George away from the television. George was annoyed because he was trying to watch Tom and Jerry. He didn't want to go to a party. He thought parties were silly and noisy and only for people with very small brains. So the witch turned the television into a jar of marmalade, tucked George under her arm, and set off down the road. It was a bright, windy night. The moon raced around the clouds, or rather, the clouds raced around it, and the bare trees thrashed around like gigantic broomsticks. Soon they could see the lights of the town hall. "We'll wait in this one," said the witch, flying up into a large elm tree. George sat on a branch sulking. He thought the whole thing was very stupid. They sat in the elm tree for about an hour and a half. "Do you know what?" said the witch at length. George sniffed and moved further along the branch. "I think this Halloween story is just another massive leg pull." George was about to suggest that they went home and watched television when 100 witches, accompanied by their cats, arrived from behind a cloud and settled on the elm tree. I don't know whether you've ever heard rooks at nesting time, but that is exactly how the witches sounded. Caw, caw, cackle, cackle. If the band in the town hall had not been playing very loudly, everybody would have come dashing out to see what was the matter. "Then you must be Winnie from Wapping," the witch exclaimed excitedly. "The very same," said the other witch, "which makes Gertie over there your second cousin, and Hattie the Howl your great-great-grandmother." "Fancy that!" cried the witch. "So we really are all related to one another?" "Indisputably," said Winnie. "What a turn-up for the books! You must all come round for a meal one day." "Delighted to," said all the 100 witches together, and the elm tree groaned under the weight. Then the witch remembered the Halloween party. "There's a party we must go to in the town hall, but I'm afraid none of the children believes in us." "Ugh, we have the same trouble every year," said Gertie. "We were seriously thinking of packing in the whole job. I mean, we have better things to do than fly around chimney pots catching pneumonia for the amusement of children who don't believe in us anyway." "On the other hand," said the witch craftily, "there are prizes at this party, and refreshments too." At this, the witches fell out of the tree into a big heap and started running and flying towards the town hall. "Good heavens!" said Sally when she saw them. "Fancy all those old ladies entering the competition. That's not fair." "I don't recognise a single one of them," complained the mayor. "There must be a coach trip in." "It's not fair," grumbled all the children. "Now then," scolded Simon's mother, "we must be hospitable. Pass round the jam tarts." She'd hardly said it when the tarts were gone. "Oh!" said everybody, shocked. "Tasty, those," said the witches, licking their fingers. The mayor decided that he had better get on with the judging. He had an uncomfortable feeling that things weren't going too well. The band began to play again, and everyone marched round and around whilst the mayor judged and consulted the ladies on the committee. It wasn't a very large hall in which to march, and with hundreds of extra cats who kept wandering willy-nilly out of order, people kept stumbling. Sarah Grimshaw stood on her own dress, ripped it, and had to be taken away to the cloakroom in tears. "That's one less," giggled Gertie as she stamped along. She could not remember when she had enjoyed a party more. "It's so difficult," the mayor mopped his brow. "I must say, those old ladies look very realistic in their costumes." "And the cats are so good," said Mrs. Smythe. "Well, I think a child should win it," objected Lady Fox-Custard. "After all, we didn't invite all these strangers." "Well, who do you think they are, then?" asked the mayor nervously. "Some ladies' sewing circle from Upper Scunton, I shouldn't wonder," said Lady Fox-Custard. The mayor made up his mind very quickly and gave the first cat prize to Jimmy Watson and the first witch prize to Sally. He was immediately sorry. "Cheat!" screeched Hattie the Howl. "She's not a witch. If you're a fair judge, then I'm a bottle of black ink." The mayor's gold chain quivered. "Well, it's too late now," he said. "I've given the prizes." "To a silly girl in a paper hat all stuck together with sellotape," cried Hattie. "We are all professional witches." "Now then, ladies," said the mayor, wishing he were home, filling his hot water bottle and getting ready for bed. "A joke's a joke, and we think your costumes are very good indeed, but all good things come to an end, and you'll miss your coach if you don't hurry." At this the witches huddled together in the middle of the floor like a great pile of black tents, and they muttered and discussed this whole turn of events, and all anybody could see was the occasional green eye glinting out from the pile and the odd sharp nose. "It's obvious," Winnie from Wapping was whispering, "that we shall have to prove ourselves to these unbelieving people." "How?" hissed Hattie. "Have they ever seen sausage rolls running around on legs?" asked Winnie. "I doubt it," said the others. "Have they ever seen jellies doing the rock and roll?" "I shouldn't think so." "Could they raise themselves up from the floor and fly around the light bulbs?" "Never, I'm sure," agreed the others. "Well then," said Winnie, "it's against my principles to give childish demonstrations, but I think just for once we'll have to." "We'll have to," said all the witches. And so they did. Lady Foxcustard screamed. "Ladies' sewing circle indeed," said the mayor, dodging a troop of wild sausage rolls which ran between his legs. "Well, how was I to know they were real witches? I didn't believe in them," wailed Lady Foxcustard. "Whoops!" gasped Mrs. Smythe, as a yellow jelly ran up her back and disappeared under her hat. Witches hung from every light fitting. They slid down the pipes, flew in and out of the windows, had broomstick races, and changed all the tables into trampolines. Suddenly the children began to laugh. The witches liked that. All witches like showing off. They began to show off more than ever. "Who's for lemonade?" hooted Hattie, and she changed all the tap water into lemonade. "This is absolutely great!" cried Simon. "There'll be complaints from the water board," warned the mayor, but nobody was listening to him. Anything the children wanted, the witches produced. Winnie from Wapping started frying fish and chips in her hat, and Hattie the Howl gave free broomstick rides. "Ah, I used to be frightened of witches," laughed Sarah Grimshaw as she clung on the back of Hattie the Howl's dress. "Silly little girl," said Hattie. But at last it was time to go home, because going home is the most perfect of all inventions. Everyone said, "Goodbye," and "It's been lovely meeting you," and that sort of thing. Simon and the witch walked slowly down the road. The moon had moved a lot and was hanging low behind a church spire. "I'm glad you met all your relations," Simon was saying. "Yes," said the witch. "It's nice having a bit of family." She chuckled. "Ha! We didn't half show 'em tonight, did we?" "You did, but—" "But what?" said the witch. "I expect by tomorrow the children will have forgotten all about you." The witch scowled, and then she laughed. "Perhaps it's better that way," she said, and she vanished.